guest for week 11 of the 2023 season. This is Nick, joined as always by Kevin.
What's up, Niner Nation?
Producer Brad, being a mad genius behind the scenes.
Hey.
And special guest for you this week, Coach Ashley is out on assignment. We are joined by associate head coach, Taylor White. What's up, Coach White?
Hey, guys. How are y'all?
Man, we're great. How awesome is this? Like, we have never had anyone on this show except for Coach Chastain, and we have our first, guest, and it's you. How awesome is that?
It's awesome. I appreciate you guys having me. Ashley, I think I was supposed to do it last week, and then she stepped back in and took that one, and so I was excited for the opportunity. We appreciate you guys' support just every week, so getting to be on here and share a little bit about our programs, always exciting.
Well, we're excited for it. We're gonna give everybody a chance to get to know a little bit more about you. Speaking of which, hey, Kevin, you're here. How about that?
Yeah, I'm back from assignment last week, and I'll serve my suspension for yelling at the umpires against UTSA too much. So I'm back in full force.
It was spring break in Cabarrus County, so Kevin and family went up to DC. You got a ball game in, right?
Yeah, saw the Orioles and Yankees, and then took the kids to DC, see all the sights they'd never been. So it's a good time for them to do that, I guess.
Yeah, good stuff. So we're glad you guys got to do that, and we're even more happy that you're back because now you can kind of bring some sanity to all this instead of just me here, running amok. Producer Brad tried to restrain me, but it just didn't go very well. Yeah.
I did listen to the show with you and Ashley last week, and it was a really good show. I liked the format with the one host.
Well, next week you can do it. Next week you can do it. I'll take the week off.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, it was good, but we're glad to have you back. So I tell you what we're going to do. We did this the first show, Taylor, with Ashley. We spent a little time just kind of getting to know her and kind of getting her basically her softball journey, if you will, on tape. And we'd like to do the same thing with you. So we kind of know the basics about Taylor White, but we figured you could fill in the rest. Why don't we start at the beginning? We know you're a local, growing up in Hidnight, which is not too far away from me here in Kannapolis when you think about it, just kind of west of Statesville there. So, what's your earliest baseball, t-ball / softball memory? How far back does that go for you?
I don't know that I remember it, but I know when I think I was 4, my parents actually rode horses up until that point. My family had done that. And so then the girl that lived next to me was a year older than me and was playing t-ball at the time. And so my parents signed me up and took me to practice. And I think I wanted nothing to do with it at all. I wanted to ride horses and do that. And they took me to the field one day. And I remember actually my first t-ball coach, Shelby Earp, walked up and asked if I wanted to go on the field. And my parents had brought cleats and a glove. And it was kind of on from there. We sold the horses and started travel ball and never looked back. So I don't know that I necessarily remember it, but I know that was the first time that I played and just, my parents. And then Shelby was really influential, just starting my journey with softball and t-ball at that time.
Now, Kevin, Kevin's laughing because Kevin's family is a horse family.
Okay.
Well, my wife's a horse.
Yeah.
My wife's a horse person, and we are entering the travel ball realm. So yes, we you know what we're going through right now. So it's fun times in our house. So I can appreciate both worlds.
Yeah, I don't remember much about the horse riding stuff. It was so young, but then we sold all of them and traveled the country.
There you go.
So that was like a never look back thing. Like your family still doesn't have horses.
We do not. I can't remember. I was a little older probably by the time I was 10, I think they were done with the horses and committed to, that was the time I started playing actual travel ball. And so they didn't have time for them. They were just we live on about 11 acres when I grew up. And so we had always 2 to 3 horses. And by the time I was 10, it was pretty much an empty pasture behind the house.
Perfect field to play softball in, I guess.
I don't know. We never went out there. It's pretty hilly, but my dad and I would throw in the yard every day, every week. But the horses the pasture was not the place to do that.
So this kind of you wanted nothing to do with it initially, but you just kind of got the bug. Is that how this went?
Yeah, pretty much. I remember the first time that I think I was maybe 10 close or something. We were going to practice and I was in the back seat, and I'm an only child. So you sit in the middle so you can see everything going on. And I asked my parents if I had to go to practice, and they said no and turned the car around. And I never asked again because I wanted to go, but I asked the question and they said, if you don't want to go, you're not going to have to do it. So from that point, it was like, I'm not going to ask. And I enjoyed every minute of it. Just from T-ball to travel ball to high school. My high school was really good for years and still is pretty good. And then through college, and now hopefully for the rest of my life, this is what I'll be doing.
So go ahead, Kevin. Go ahead.
Well, you mentioned high school. I think it looks like you won multiple state championships in high school.
Yeah, we won 3. We lost my sophomore year, I think was the year we lost. And it was actually probably the best team that we had. Chelsea Wilkinson pitched my freshman and sophomore year and then went on to play at Georgia. And then we lost her senior year, my sophomore year. And then we won 2 more back-to-back after that. So the year we thought we were going to win it, no doubt about it, we didn't make it. And the kid, I think can't remember her name, she was going to Auburn to pitch, beat us in the game before the state championship. So, but yeah, 3 state championships in high school, and, things you'll never forget just with people I know just in the Charlotte area. I still have friends from who I played with in high school, which is awesome.
Now, forgive me for not knowing this, but what's the name of the high school there?
Alexander Central.
Alexander Central, yeah. So you're at Alexander Central. You're a part of these championship teams. So obviously, I mean, just by what you're talking about with the girls that you had going other places, there's scouts all over. There's scouts at all your games, with girls going to Georgia, and you don't have that quality team without there being folks in the stands watching your games. So when is the first time you started to think that I might be able to play this game at the next level?
Softball is so different than baseball, just in the recruiting process. And I think I was in about 7th grade when I went to my first North Carolina camp, and I actually played travel ball for Ben McKinney, who his daughter caught at North Carolina at the time. And so that was a little bit of the connection on top of my family just being North Carolina fans as I was growing up. And so when I was in 7th grade, I knew that's where I wanted to go. It was my dream school. And then when I was a sophomore in high school that fall, I committed to go to North Carolina. So I guess 7th grade was the time where I knew that I was on the path to being talented enough to do it. And then just being around people who were a part of that program, it became a dream of mine to go there. And by sophomore year, it was crazy to think now with us being able to recruit juniors. But committing as a sophomore was exciting. You're young at the time and don't know what you're getting yourself into, but I think the people around you might be more excited than you are.
Were you, I mean, you think about that. I mean, you're 15, mm-hmm. right? And, at the time you commit, probably 15. I mean, that's a pretty big, and we're going to talk about recruiting strategies with you as well. But looking at 15-year-olds trying to decide who's going to be a baller in 3 years plus. I mean, that's a pretty significant challenge, and you've seen it from both sides. So, did you really know? I know you're excited because it's kind of a dream come true thing, but did you really know what you were getting into when, as a 15-year-old, you gave a coach like a solid commitment, like, yeah, I'm committing to play D1 college ball for you?
I don't think so. I think it was a little bit, like I said, of just being a fan as I was a kid. And then, I didn't have any idea what the school was about at the time or any of what I was going to major in or how that would work out. So I think just, you said we were going to hit on recruiting. I think that's a huge benefit of what we have gone to on the softball side of things. And I know baseball's just gone to it as well, is that the recruits now know more about what they want out of the situation, not just the school, but the culture of the program and, the staff dynamic, all of that of what you're getting into. So I think committing as a 15-year-old, I had no clue what I was getting into. I just knew that I wanted to play Division I softball, and I got the opportunity to do it and couldn't have been more excited at the time.
Oh yeah. I mean, that would be huge. I mean, most of your classmates are not making, they're just starting to think about college,
right.
As a sophomore, starting to explore different opportunities. Now, did you committed to North Carolina? You had that plan. Who else was talking to you? Were you entertaining other offers at the time?
Yeah. I mean, I was still pretty young the recruiting got younger after I got to college, where they were committing 7th and 8th graders. And so I was one of the younger of my travel team at the time, and just my class of 2014 to commit. So I had kind of just gotten into the recruiting process, and actually North Carolina had offered me late my freshman year, and I didn't commit immediately because I wanted to take the summer to see what would come about. And that summer I got a few other offers. One that I was kind of entertaining was Virginia Tech at the time. And I think my family took me to see the campus, and just, it wasn't the place, I didn't feel like. And then after that, North Carolina re-offered me. And that was when I made my decision that fall to go to Chapel Hill. So it was a little bit longer of a process than it sounded like, but Virginia Tech was the main one. There were a couple others, and a few that I had just started talking to at the time. But the rule was strange too, because you had to call them. They couldn't call you. So it was like you're a 15-year-old having to pick up the phone and call a, 40-plus-year-old head coach that has been there for 20 years, and you're nervous as can be, and you're having to start the conversation. So I'm lucky we don't have to do that here. I think about that a lot, of how awkward I felt as a 15-year-old, just picking up the phone and calling a coach to talk about nothing, it felt like. And so I couldn't imagine what that would be like now, of, 7th, 8th, 9th graders trying to call you. So I'm glad we don't have that anymore.
Kevin, that's like your son being in position to commit.
Yeah. He doesn't even have a phone yet, so he's been begging for one, but man, he's not responsible enough. He's not responsible enough. So I can only imagine that having to call D1 college coaches and have a conversation. That's kind of blows my mind, to be honest.
So were you supposed to? I mean, what's the reality of this? I think it's probably the statute of limitations is probably up on all this. I hope so. But I mean, like, how do you're supposed to call them? How, in reality, how does word get to you that they want you to call them?
I mean, I think sometimes it was just that kids were probably picking up the phone and calling and seeing if they would answer. But I think at the time the travel coaches were involved of just like giving the college coach a heads up of so-and-so is going to call you. And obviously there were conversations I'm sure that happened behind the scenes that I never even knew about. But just through camps and everything and knowing that I was kind of on their list, it was my travel coach would tell me that I needed to call, and I would tell him when I was going to, and you hope that you get an answer. Sometimes you don't, but I remember I would leave voicemails and just, that you have to say, I know you can't call me back, but I'm going to call you at this time, and give them a heads up of when you're going to call in 2 hours or the next day.
Man, I bet they had some crazy voicemails.
I'm sure. I couldn't imagine the phone calls they got at the time.
Oh, that's crazy.
Hi, this is Taylor. How's it going? Well, what are you doing?
Exactly.
Oh, me? I'm doing my algebra homework.
Oh, so you went on to North Carolina. You said it was your dream school. Went on to a great career at North Carolina. I was looking up some of your numbers today. ACC Defensive Player of the Year 2018, All ACC, either first or second team, all 4 years there. And then looking through the record books, you're in the top 10 in most of the offensive categories that they listed in the record book. So quite a career at Chapel Hill. Tell us a little bit about your playing days and how was playing for such a Hall of Fame coach in Chapel Hill.
Yeah. It's funny. My career, I feel like, is a little bit opposite of what most people have. My freshman year was definitely my best year statistically. So I went in as a freshman and had some upperclassmen ahead of me and walked into Chapel Hill not knowing if I was going to play even once we got to February of that first opening weekend. And, I was lucky enough to start every game as a freshman. And then I think I missed one game my sophomore year, but that was it. And we made regionals 3 of the 4 times, which was awesome. It's an experience that I'll never forget. And hopefully we get here in Charlotte here in a few weeks. But, Chapel Hill was like I said, a dream school, and just getting to be from North Carolina and put on a jersey that means something to you is special. And so I think just that experience of what I've had has really, influenced my career as a coach, of just being in Charlotte and being around my hometown. It's been awesome to get to recruit kids and preach to them of how they're going to get to play in front of their parents every day and wear Charlotte across their chest, whereas I wore Carolina, and you feel proud about that because you're from there. So I think, not trying to combine the two, but my playing career just into my coaching career and getting to be so close to home has had an influence that I didn't really realize it would when I first got here. As we recruited this upcoming class, just the 23s who have already signed, a lot of them are from the state. And so that was kind of the method that we went with, was just, come play for your hometown team and build something here. And it was really easy to do because I got to speak on that from a player's perspective as well. I was lucky my parents came to, I would say, over 65% of home and away games. In the ACC, you travel to Syracuse and Pitt and all those guys, so they're not coming up there much. But that was probably the highlight of my career that I didn't realize in the moment, was that my family and even my friends that I grew up with got to see me play more than most people get.
Looking into your background reminded me of something. Graduated in 2018. Kevin, you and I are really old. Like really, really old. Kind of hurts my feelings a little bit, but I'll get past it. You brought up playing, the ACC as we knew it for years and years was a Southern league, and
Mm-hmm.
and now it's up and down the East Coast. So Syracuse, for example, since you brought it up, like where do they play softball at Syracuse? Speaking of things I've never thought about, I mean they play football and basketball in the same indoor building. Where do they play softball?
Oh, you're outdoors.
I thought it would be, but I mean, Syracuse in April is
not great. I remember one Easter we got snowed out on a Sunday or a Saturday, I think. So we had to play a doubleheader Friday. This is actually at Syracuse. And then I remember I went to Syracuse 3 out of 4 of my years because the ACC got rearranged once Duke got a program my senior year. So we were lucky enough to get to travel back to Syracuse that year as well.
lucky enough.
And I remember them like shoveling snow off the outfield and just, the surface isn't the same as you get in this weather all year because they can't have it. Like you're not upkeeping a surface when it's snowing and melting and freezing. So yeah, you're outside, but it's not the conditions that I would say that I would want to be in every day.
You remember, is that a solid turf? Is it 100% turf?
No turf.
No turf.
No turf. I'm not sure what it is now, but it was not at the time. It was dirt and grass.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds like that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. I think Pitt recently got a turf outfield. But yeah, that Pitt was the same way. Snow every time you went. If you went before, if you were lucky enough to get the May like first weekend series, you might not get snow, but the rest of them, you were going to be cold.
Wow.
And then you're traveling to Florida State and it's 90 the other weekend. So you definitely didn't know what you were getting week to week.
So I did notice that you did make a road trip or two to the Sioux during your playing career. Charlotte also played in Chapel Hill a couple times. Looks like you guys won all 4 of them against the Niners. Talk a little bit about your first impressions of our campus, the Sioux, and kind of what you noticed once you came to campus.
Yeah, I remember even going back before I got to campus in just my senior year of high school, Charlotte, I believe, beat North Carolina that year. And I remember being signed and I was like, we lost to Charlotte at the time. And at the time it wasn't the same as what we're building. And so then get there. I remember coming to campus. I don't remember a ton about outside. I remember the outdoor cages behind left field when I was a player. And then I remember the dugouts not having the netting in the front when I was young. As a freshman, I believe, but then they implemented the rule that you had to add that. So when I got here, 4 summers ago, it was shocking to me, just the campus and everything that I hadn't really paid attention to as a player. And then on top of that, you add the indoor hitting facility compared to the outdoor cages that I remembered as a player. And then the padded wall our first year, and now the video board. I think back to playing on the field. And then even when I was at South Carolina, we came down and played a midweek, I think, against Charlotte. And it's completely different now than it was then. And, it's just a testament to everything that Mike Hill and CT and all of those guys have put into softball here. But I remember it not looking, the stadium and the field itself, not looking anything like it looks now.
Right. It's been quite a transition. It really looks nice, especially with that video board. It brings a lot to the table.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it happened again, Kevin.
What's wrong?
So we, we had Eric McKibben on, and I went looking for a box score when McKibben played at the Hayes, and McKibben had a career weekend. McKibben just slaughtered us with Evansville. So I went and pulled up the box score from your senior year. That was a 12-2 final. Do you remember what you did that day?
I know I had a triple with 3 RBIs in the game. Bases were
did.
loaded, but I don't remember the rest.
That triple, 3 for 5, 5 ribbies, a walk, 2 runs. You stole a base. Yeah. Nope. Correction. You stole 2 bases. Yeah. So you had a nice day at the Sioux.
Yeah. Well, I remember. So Haley Pace, who was a senior, we played together growing up. So it was always a rivalry of just us playing each other, not even Chapel Hill Charlotte. And then Bailey Roney, who pitched here, had played high school ball with me. So I knew a lot of people at Charlotte. I didn't know a lot about the school, but I remember that game in particular because the bases were loaded and they changed pitchers when I came to the plate. So that's why I remember the triple in the game, but I didn't remember the final score.
Where'd you hit the ball to?
Down the first baseline. I went to the right field corner. I can tell you a lot of things in college that I don't forget, good and bad.
Yeah.
Same thing with our games here. I can recap the whole thing for you most of the time.
Yeah. Bottom line is, Kevin, we gotta find some guests that didn't just have big days at our expense. That's what we got to do.
Well, the good thing is they're on our side now, so.
Well, that's right. That's what you do. People do stuff, and you say, "Hey, wouldn't you rather do that with us?" So, it's talent acquisition, right? So, yeah, you did have a big day at Sioux. That was a 12-2 final. Let's see, what was the date on that? That was March 7th, 2018. You were on campus. Running around the bases, stealing bases, hitting triples, all that kind of stuff. So, as your career is winding down in college, was there? Well, first of all, what I believe was your major exercise science? Is that right?
It was. Yep.
So, were you? What options were on the table as your career was winding down, or you were 100%? I'm staying in softball. I'm going into coaching. What were you?
I was 100% that I was staying in softball somehow. At the time, I was actually planning to stay in Chapel Hill and be the volunteer there. And I went and played after I graduated in Alabama for a summer. And while I was doing that, I got a phone call from Coach P. It was just the South Carolina volunteer spot opened up. I think it'd be awesome for you to go get some SEC experience, as much as we'd love you here. And Beverly Smith at the time was part of the recruiting coordinator at North Carolina as I was growing up. So I had known Bev, and then Coach P and Bev had coached together for years. So the stars kind of aligned in that. And I wound up telling Coach P that I was going to take that opportunity and go to Columbia and get some SEC experience just after being in the ACC for 4 years. So, yeah, I knew pretty much from the time I was in high school that I wanted to coach. It was just how I was going to get there. So the path was the same path, but I just went a little bit different route in terms of not staying at Chapel Hill, going to Columbia for a year.
So what was going on? You said you went to Alabama and played for a summer. What's going on in Alabama?
So they did a pro league. It was the first year of it. I think it was the ASB. I don't even remember the league's name, but it was the first year, and they had a draft that year, and I got drafted to go play in that because at the time it was just the MPF, and I think there were 16 kids that were drafted my senior year for that, and so I knew I wanted to keep playing if I could, just to get the experience on my resume. So I went and played down there for a summer for about 2.5 months. It was a lot of games in 2 months, but it was a good experience just to, go play with people from all over the country. And the team I was on actually won the league, which was fun, but it was a little bit more it wasn't necessarily as professional as the MPF was, and all those things now that are awesome that they have for opportunities. But it was an opportunity to continue playing after we didn't make regionals my senior year. And so I didn't feel like my time was done. And so getting to go out on a winning note was nice that summer.
So where were you? Were you Birmingham or Tuscaloosa?
Mobile, Alabama.
Mobile.
Yep.
Okay.
Hottest place on earth.
So
Out in
Ashley,
Columbia?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was hotter.
Oh, okay.
Ashley went to Germany
Yeah. I went to Mobile, Alabama.
and you went to Alabama.
Yep. I think she got the better deal.
Well, you both face language barriers.
I knew that was coming, man. I knew that was coming, Nick.
I know. Yeah, I almost feel bad about it because it was too easy. But nonetheless, I've already done it, so it's too late. So, that's, I don't blame you there, though. Because whenever you talk to people about their playing careers, you kind of know that when you hang them up, they're up,
Yeah.
and so you got to be real selective about making sure you're done, before you do that. So that sounds perfectly logical to take that opportunity, go down and play. What did you get for winning that league? Did you get anything? Was there
We got a ring.
got a ring?
Did get a ring. Didn't make much money that summer, but did get a ring. So, better than nothing. But it was a fun summer. Like, it was a time to, college is so enforced of your schedule and all of that. And so it was nice to feel like you were a professional athlete for a couple months if you got to work out when you wanted to and you were told when to be there for game time. But other than that, that was about all that was on your schedule.
Like host families?
Yeah, there were host families down there. Some girls got paired up in like Airbnb rental properties for the summer, and then some of us had host families. I had a host family for the summer, so it was an interesting experience driving down and not knowing where you're going to stay with someone, but wound up being good.
Yeah, that's cool. That's not a lot of people get the chance to do something like that, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So let's so you coach for a year at South Carolina. Ashley gets a job at Charlotte. Tell us a little bit about how it came about that you joined her staff at Charlotte 49ers.
So the summer after, I guess it was 2019 summer, I was planning to stay in Columbia again and get another year under my belt just as a volunteer. And the Charlotte job came open and they hired Ashley, and Bev kind of came to me and said, Ashley was at South Carolina while I was here and I know her pretty well. I think it would be a good opportunity for you to go back home if you could get the job. And so she recommended that I reach out and see if that was an option. And I think Bev reached out to Ashley about it and we kind of got connected and we talked for a couple weeks back and forth. I had actually had hip surgery, and so I wasn't able to drive up to campus because I wasn't allowed to drive at all. And so Ashley drove down to Columbia to have dinner here. And I know the Charlotte area enough to know that it'd be a place I wanted to live, and my family was even closer. So all of that lined up, but I knew really nothing about Ashley other than what Bev had told me. So she came down and we had dinner and she offered me the job. And I think it was maybe right then or the day after that I accepted the job because, it just felt like the right place at the right time. And that's what Ashley was kind of preaching to me through the whole thing of just the job interview and us talking back and forth, was that Charlotte was the right place and we were going there at the right time. She had explained to me the excitement behind, Mike Hill coming in as the AD and everything that he wanted softball to be here at Charlotte. And so I was super bought into that. Ashley talked a ton about winning, which was something that I cared about more than anything at the time, was that, the head coach I was going to be working for, that was at the top of the list of the things that mattered. And then she just hit on a ton of culture things that, as a player, you kind of get an opportunity to be in really 4 different environments in your college career, and you get to experience 4 different teams and the culture of each of those teams. So you learn a lot through those 4 years of just what you do want, what you don't want. And the things Ashley was talking about were a ton of the things that were on my list of things that mattered for culture. So it was pretty quick that I accepted the job. And then I think she told me she needed me in Charlotte by a certain date. And I moved like 4 days later. My dad came down and helped me pack all my stuff, and we moved me into an apartment. I think it was a Thursday we had dinner maybe, and by Sunday I was all moved in. So happened pretty quick, but like I said, it just felt right. And it has been since that dinner that we had, of just like everything that we have in our beliefs of what a winning culture looks like aligns really well. So I think it's been the start of the whole thing here for Ashley, me, Jody, and now CJ, like has just aligned to what Ashley talked about that night at dinner of what she wanted to build here in Charlotte.
Trust me, Coach, we've listened to Ashley talk about vision and what what she's trying to build. And you were totally right to get sucked into that, because when you listen to her talk, it's like, yeah, she's going to do that. I believe that, there's no doubt about it. Tell us though about that phone call when you called home and told mom and dad that, hey, I'm going to be, I don't know, what's from where you grew up to campus. Is that a 45-minute drive? Is it? It's
right at an hour. So not far at all. Easy hour too.
What's that phone call like when you basically call and say, hey, I'm coming home?
Yeah, it was, I think they were excited. Just with they thought I was going to be another year of being on their income and their, getting some money from them. I think that was the most exciting thing for them, was that I was going to be getting paid. But I think for my mom especially, that's probably the fear of most coaches' parents, is that you're going to go across the country for a job. And so when I got to say that it was Charlotte, and it was the closest I'd ever been from the time I went to college to South Carolina to here, they were excited. And they come to a lot of games, home games here. And so it's awesome that they get to have a relationship with the players and, be around, that I can see them on Easter and all of that stuff. So I think they enjoy it even more now than they realized they would at the time. And then sometimes I think they feel guilty that they're not here more. And so they probably wish I was further away so that they had an excuse not to come. But I don't know.
Well, as the father of a 17-year-old rising high school senior, I am totally feeling that with the payroll thing.
Yeah. Yep.
I am totally feeling that. Wait a minute. You're paying for everything now? Yes. Yeah. I can see that. That was probably that. Do I feel like that's more your dad than your mom?
I don't know. I think it's more my mom than my dad. Yeah. She's definitely the one that's like, you pay for it. My dad's the one that'll come on the back end if I really need him and come through there. But both of them were excited for me to get off the payroll.
Yeah. Hey, mom, dad, I got a job. I'm going to be coaching at Charlotte. Does that include insurance? Yeah. Fantastic.
That's exactly what they said. Yep.
Couldn't be happier for you. That's awesome. I love that. I totally feel that. So you got here in 4 days, you said.
Yep.
So, and this ends up being, you don't know this yet, but this ends up being headed into the COVID time frame is what it ends up being. We're getting extremely close to it. But what are your priorities when you're hitting the ground running in Charlotte, as far as, roster, you're as far as recruiting goes, you're kind of trying to build a Rolodex figuratively, and, just talk about that. You kind of got, you take this job from Ashley and you kind of 4 days later, you're swimming in the deep end.
Yeah. I think at the time we knew that I believe we had like 14 players on the team. They kept a much smaller roster than we ever had. So we knew that we needed to add, and then the class that we were actually recruiting at the time that was supposed to sign in November, we had none. So it's late July and you're supposed to be signing seniors in November and we don't have any. So that was definitely a fall of us just being out, both of us, recruiting and trying to get kids to camp. I remember our first camp that summer was like 80 some kids. And I don't know that they had ever had a camp that big on Charlotte's campus for softball. So we were lucky that people really got behind Ashley's vision just in the recruiting world, because I hadn't really gotten to establish myself at all at the time. But I was from North Carolina, so some of the travel coaches in the recruiting world knew who I was and sent kids to camp. And through that, we started to get some commitments. But then on top of that, we knew that going into the following year, even after the COVID year, we were going to need more players. And that's where the transfer portal really helped us. And I know some people hate it, some people love it. No one's ever in between on what they think of the portal. But for us, it's helped us build the program faster than we ever thought we could when we first got the job. And, I think in the long term, we will continue to bring in high school seniors and develop them through 4 years. But I think there's always the 1 year kid that fits from a school who just maybe it wasn't the right fit and they come to Charlotte and it is. So we've had a ton of success there. Cassidy Crouppet, the most recent ad, and Sam Gress and Georgiana Barefoot, all those guys this past summer, like those are the kids that come in and kind of fill the holes that we lacked in recruiting early when we got here. And they fill the holes in a huge way, which has been awesome. So I think the recruiting process that first fall, though, was us trying to get, anyone committed who we thought could help improve the talent on the field the next fall. I remember that fall, we graduated 2 seniors early at the time, and brought them in. And then I think our final roster going into spring was at 14 players total. So you can imagine how we felt going into the COVID year with 9 kids on the field and 5 in the dugout. It was a weird feeling. And I don't think about it much of just how strange that was that first year. But I mean, we got through it and COVID happened, and that was obviously crazy times. But I think, in the long run, we were lucky that we got Bailey and Anna back for another year. And then on top of that, all the transfers that we had that are in their 5th or 6th year, we got to keep them for an extra year. So that's awesome. But it definitely affected things. The COVID year did, of us feeling like things got slowed down, but then we got sped back up because we were still recruiting for the kids to come in that fall when we were going to sign an entire another class in just a couple of months. So it felt like we were always playing catch up those first 2 years on the recruiting side of things.
So it ended up, I guess, in hindsight, the whole COVID shutdown, it bought you a little breather, at least, to maybe get your feet under you a little more and come out of that shutdown with, on a more level playing field with your competitors, I guess is the way I would say it. Is that fair or no?
Yeah. I mean, we got Spencer Gray back after that first year, the COVID year. We got her back and we added Nicole Bowman in the outfield. And so just thinking, if COVID hadn't happened, we don't have Spencer and Nicole in the outfield at the same time. And, even this year, we don't have an outfield on the field right now without the COVID year happening. And then Cass at first base. So those 4 that play every day for us without COVID wouldn't be here right now. So in the moment, it felt like a crazy roller coaster. Everyone was really upset about it. But in the long run, just for us, it actually worked out pretty well that we were, shut down, as crazy as that sounds, to give us another year with all of these guys.
So I think what I hear you saying is, and you're right, the opinions across the college sports landscape on the portal are so varied. I guess we'd have to put you down as pro portal.
We've kind of gotten that reputation of people know that if there's someone in the portal that fits what we need, we're going to go after them. But I think with the portal, I think you can do it the wrong way and not care about the culture of the kids that you're bringing in with the portal. But
oh yeah,
we've done a really good job of just getting kids to come here, and we tell them what we're about, and most of them see that as a really awesome thing, and they want to be a part of that. Just thinking back to this summer, like Sam Gress comes on campus from NC State and is coming from the ACC, and she's here for 2 days. And I'll actually give Ashley some credit. She did that whole visit by herself, except for the breakfast on Sunday morning. But Sam was here for 2 days, and Jody and I were out.
Is that when you came in and closed the deal?
It's exactly what happened. I think Eric has to get some credit there too. I do believe he went to dinner, so we'll give Eric some closing credit too. But it was.
Well, I hear he's a closer.
He is. Eric's awesome in everything he does. Just to hit on him really quick, but he really has been a huge help for us just with the transfer portal in general. I think kids come out of these big programs and they want people who know what they're talking about in every aspect. And Eric is top notch in what he does. And so us being able to bring them on campus and him give them a deep dive into what they're going to get from his side of things and strength training and all of that stuff has been huge. I think that a lot of kids would tell you that they come here and they feel like they're going to be supported on that side. And it's a big reason they left their other school. So, giving Eric a shout out on here, but I think he's been a huge testament to him of just what he does in the weight room with our kids. And then also on the recruiting side of things, if you need someone to go to dinner with a recruit, Eric's in.
Yeah. We had a show with him a couple weeks back. He definitely provides the charisma, and I'd like to have dinner with him also.
I'm sure he wouldn't turn it down.
You talked about recruiting. Back to that a little bit. The whole landscape has changed with the portal and all that, and now duties have shifted kind of in a coaching staff where now you're more focused. You're in charge of the transfer portal aspect of recruiting, and others are in charge of the high schools type. Is that how the duties are split up kind of throughout the college softball these days? Or I know they've been kind of listed in their titles as transfer portal coordinator, recruiting coordinator, and so forth.
Yeah, I think, Jody took over the high school recruiting stuff this past fall. He really loves that and loves the interaction with the travel coaches, and it's just his lane and he's good at it. And so he's taken over that in terms of all the planning of where we're going and everything up until we get to the park to watch the games. That's been his responsibility. And then on top of the high school stuff that's going on now, which is tough for us to go watch just because they play on most days that we're playing. But, Jody keeps the schedules of when all that stuff's going on. And then my time of recruiting is about to kick off of the transfer portal. And we just kind of made that decision this past fall because of how much the transfer portal has affected our program. And on top of that, how busy we are with bringing kids on campus. It felt like last summer, Ashley and I would be planning to go somewhere recruiting and so-and-so's in the portal, we need to get them on campus by the weekend. So we're canceling flights, rearranging things. So I think this summer we'll plan to have probably one or two of us out at a time for the high school recruiting things and making sure that one of us is always in Charlotte for, the kid that goes in the portal and we need to get them on campus the next day. So I think schools will start transitioning to that soon if they already haven't. Or just assigning, the head coach stays behind and is on campus with the transfers, whatever it looks like. But that's kind of what it feels like it's going towards, just because of the time that you're putting in to bring transfers on campus, and you're doing official visits. So you're flying them in, you're, taking them to dinner. They're here for longer than just a day. So it's a little bit more work, but for us, we've reaped the benefits of that so far.
Can you, and we're gonna talk some softball here in a minute. I promise, folks. We get to talk to somebody new, and we just have all these questions. Can you speak a little bit to the role, the relationships with the travel ball teams plays in recruiting? Because it seems like we're Kevin and I we're on the steep learning curve for softball, particularly on the recruiting side. We have been more familiar with the baseball side, but it feels like that there's an added emphasis on the travel ball side in softball. And where I see that showing up is like when a player commits and you look up their social media account, they're probably not even going to tell you in that profile where they go to high school, but they're definitely going to tell you which travel ball team they play with. And so it just seems to be a kind of a different dynamic in softball with travel orgs. And I'm just curious to get your take on that.
Yeah, no, it's way different in softball than it is baseball, in terms of we don't necessarily recruit out of high school. There's the rare case of, we want it to feel special and we go to a high school game, which means a lot to the kids. But I think high school baseball is just so much more. There's more elite players on multiple teams. So you go watch a high school baseball game, you're probably watching 4 or 5 guys. Whereas if you go watch a high school softball game, most of the time you're seeing maybe 1 or 2. So you're more specifically watching one player. But the travel ball stuff is what everyone recruits out of in softball. So it's about to start up. They'll start playing in late May, and they'll play through. Some of them will play until next May. But we recruit until about the end of November. So that's the biggest difference. And yeah, the relationship with the travel coaches, I think, is important, especially with how the rules have changed. If the travel coaches don't know you, it's harder with the, September 1 date for them to trust the kid can commit to you at that time. And so I think those relationships are huge just in that aspect. But on top of, like, the travel coach knows that they're going to a program where the coaching staff is personable and cares about the relationships. But I think you have to do all that stuff on the front end, which, is different than baseball, because I think girls in general care more about relationships, and that affects how they play than guys do most of the time. And so for us, that's a big piece of the summer, is just we're watching the kids, but we're also getting to know the travel coaches, and through them, we get to know the kids even more by the time that it's September 1st. But yeah, I think the relationship piece is huge, and we have probably even more camps than most baseball teams do because of that relationship portion of the puzzle. Yeah,
that's become very apparent, and you can, if you look at the recruiting classes that you guys have put together, you can see those threads running right through the classes. In fact, I think with naturally, without mentioning any names, I think is it 4 or 5 off of one team upcoming?
Yeah. They've all switched a little bit, but I think it's 4 right now. And then it was 5 at one point. So it's, they want to go play with the people they're comfortable with, and we're okay with that. So without mentioning any names, most of them are luckily local.
Right.
And so we got to create some relationships through camps before that September 1 date, which in return gave us such a big advantage once the day came, is that they just knew us, they knew what we were about. And then on top of that, we knew them, knew that they were good kids. So yeah, the same team thing makes it easier in the summer, because you're not moving to 9 different fields in 5 hours. You're sitting behind one fence pretty much all day.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about it that way, but you're right. It's about concentration. No, that makes total sense. It's
Yep.
you need to get bang for your recruiting buck, and to be able to go to one place and have a concentration of athletes, all in one place. So, yeah, totally get that.
You get to see them play more, so you get a better idea of what you're actually getting before you go out to Colorado or California and you see a team play twice. Like, one kid might have a really good day, and that was the one good day they had of 7. Whereas when we're recruiting more local and we're seeing them consistently, we get a good idea of what their good looks like, what their bad looks like, and then what the in-between is.
Yeah.
And sometimes the recruits themselves are the best recruiters to add to the mix, right?
Yep, 100%.
Kevin, should we talk about some softball? I mean, we did play some games.
We've been talking about softball. Let's talk about 49er softball real quick.
Let's do that, because we promised Taylor we weren't going to keep her half the night. Although honestly, we could, because this is a great this is fascinating stuff. Just the chance to get your perspective on these things, because I don't know. This is not something that certainly Kevin and I spend every day thinking about, and you've got really insightful answers, so it's very helpful. So let's take a look at the week back, Coach, and you had a front row seat for all of it, especially Sunday, which we'll get to. But Wednesday at the Hayes, got a chance to go out there, and I'm sorry, I said the Hayes, didn't I? Jeez, the Sioux. What is wrong with me? Wednesday at the Sioux, got a chance to go see the Niner Gals play Liberty. And I know Coach Chastain was very excited about this game, has a lot of respect for that program, was excited about having them on the schedule. And what I saw, Coach, you can tell me your perspective here, but what I saw was basically a playoff game, because it was such a tight, intense affair. And in the end, I mean, the Sassy Pony pitched 8 innings. We went to extra. She pitched the whole thing, gave up 2 runs, and struck out 6. Corey hit a home run for the Niners solo single run. But the play of the game, honestly, might have been the very first AB in the bottom of the first, when Ashley Washington smashed a ball to right field, and their right fielder ended up on SportsCenter with what happened next. But that might have been, in hindsight, Coach, that might have been the game right there.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. If that ball doesn't get caught, it's 1-0, and we win in the 7th. At least what the final score told us is that's what would have happened. So, I mean, Liberty was exactly what we thought they would be. They were a disciplined team. They made plays when they had to. And, Keeney, for them, their pitcher we knew it was going to be a pitcher's duel going into the game. So I thought Sam threw really well through 8 innings, and we just didn't string together the offense against Keeney that we needed to come out on top. And like you said, one play changed the game to start, and then they added one more than we did at the end. So I think like you said, it felt like a regional, like a tournament game. Those are what they feel like, and someone's going to make a big play that changes it, and they just happened to be the team that made it that day. I think if we could go back, there's a few things that we would do differently and some adjustments we'd make offensively, but overall we played well. And you give credit when someone pitches really well, and their ace did that, and so did ours. They just made a few more offensive adjustments quicker than we did there in the 8th inning.
And that's two weekdays in a row that you guys have been in basically that type of format, as far as it being like 2 playoff teams going at it. Because Greensboro was very good the week before. So I mean, this stuff's only gonna help you as you go.
For sure.
All right. Big series this past weekend. You guys had to travel to North Texas. Perennial top of Conference USA softball team. Friday night, we got the W, 4-3 win. Sam Grass, 10 Ks on the mound, complete game. Ashley Washington, 1 for 3 with a ribby. Corey Hoffler, 2 for 3 with RBI. Coach, tell us a little bit about the win on Friday night.
Yeah, I think we showed up knowing that, North Texas had struggled a little bit early in conference and struggled more than anyone thought they would have. But we knew, and we told the team going into it, they were a talented team. And, they were at home and they played like it all weekend. But I think Friday night we came out with something to prove, just holding the one spot going into the weekend of – we came out with a chip on our shoulders wanting to prove that we were the better team in Conference USA. And Friday night, that's what showed. I think Sam was electric with 10 strikeouts. That's huge. Just allowing your defense to be behind you a lot less than normal. So Sam was awesome. And then really, I think Corey Hoffler in the past couple weeks has stepped up huge for us at the plate. And so, her and Ashley Washington had big nights that first night, and just the whole team 1 through 9 offensively showed up and made Wagner their ace, or one of their aces. I think they have 2 that have thrown about the same innings. So made one of them feel pretty uncomfortable night 1. I think she was out by the 4th inning. So we got to see 3 arms the first night. And then, we moved into Saturday, but night 1, I think it just set the tone that, we showed up with something to prove that weekend.
Yeah. So transitioning, let's kind of take Saturday and Sunday collectively here. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off, I guess. Just kind of talk about them as one almost. But the 3-2 loss on Saturday to set up a rubber match on Sunday, it's such another nip tuck game. I mean, Lena pitches well, 6.2 innings in 3 earned runs. So Lena pitched well. And you got you got ribbies from Cass and Lexi Wagner. It's just kind of like we talked about with Liberty. There was one of those games where somebody was going to make a play, and North Texas just kind of made that play and got the W, setting up the rubber match on Sunday, which ends up being a 6-2 defeat at home, on the road to what a lot of people thought was going to be the number 1 team in the league coming into the season. Just a pair of tough games that didn't go your way, Coach.
Yeah, I mean, I think on Saturday we played well enough to win the game, and in the 7th inning, the ball fell right for them. And it happened, and you could feel the disappointment just in the circle after the game from every person in the circle. And I thought Lena threw great. I thought the first 2 innings she took a little bit of time to settle in, and Ashley challenged her after that to settle in and throw more strikes, be more competitive, and she stepped up in a huge way for us. So for us to not be able to get the win behind the performance that she went out and gave us was disappointing. But like I said, in the 7th, it was the ball fell in their court, and they had 2 infield singles that, I mean, they were the softest hits of the game up to that point. And it just didn't work out in our favor. But their other pitcher threw really well that day. I thought she was on. And we went into the bottom of the 7th up 2-1 with only 2 hits. So when you can put 2 runs on the board with only 2 hits, that's pretty great. Cass leading off the first inning with a home run, and then Lexi Wagner stepping up with 2 outs, I think, and a runner on second. We felt good going into the 7th and had 2 outs with a runner on first and just couldn't get the job done. So I think it was a good learning experience for our kids we hadn't necessarily been in that moment up to this point this year. So in the long run, you hope that pays off of, 2 outs, runner on first, a 2-1 game. We're going to finish the game next time.
Yeah, I think we had 2 strikes on 2 of those batters, and they had pretty much swinging bunts. Yeah. And just really nothing you could do about that. just that's the way the ball bounces, so to speak. Yeah, I feel like kind of they stole that one, but we definitely played well enough to win, I thought, and it's unfortunate sometimes the game goes like that, right?
Right.
Now, and we can do this because she's not here. So Sunday, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, didn't go the way anybody wanted, but we did get some content out of Sunday because Ashley got a little animated.
She did.
She got ejected, and I guess my question for you, Taylor, is in the time that you've spent with Coach Chastain, have you ever seen her this animated?
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that was her first ejection. And she's not normally that animated. Ashley's pretty steady throughout the entire game, no matter what's going on. But, in a conference series like that, when it feels like, we told the kids before Sunday of like, this is what a conference championship's going to feel like when you enter the game. And so, it feels like that to them, but it feels like that to us too. So, seeing her get that animated, I think, like I said, Saturday would teach our kids some things. I think Sunday gave them an idea of just, how passionate everyone in the program is about winning those series, about winning a Conference USA championship.
Well, without getting you into trouble with anyone, there were several calls that were hit by pitches, and they weren't allowing us to take the base, saying we intentionally stuck the elbow out or stuck our leg out or whatever. Can you tell us what you can about those plays in specifically those plays? I think that's what the Sunday ejection started with, pretty much.
Yeah, I think all weekend when you feel like you have 4 or 5 free bases taken back from you, that everyone's going to be pretty upset about it. And I think we're 3rd in the country in hit by pitches, and that's something we just kind of take pride in, is that's a toughness stat of who's going to stand there and take it and, literally take one for the team to get a base runner on. And so, I think when your kids are willing to stand in the box and take 67 to the elbow, that someone's going to fight for them when they're brought back after doing that, because it's not, they're not just standing in there and doing something that's easy. And I don't know, we've watched the film, and I think a few of them were questionable, and at the end of the day, we were called back 5 times on the weekend, and it's 5 base runners that you never know what's going to happen with. And, the last one in game 3, we had a runner on first with 1 out. You go to first and second there with still 1 out. That brings Ella Chansey to the plate down 4. I have to believe that something good comes out of that. And so, we're not going to stop doing what we're about, and that's taking free bases. So I think our kids they're even more motivated to get to first base by a hit by pitch after the weekend, just because it was taken away, like I said, 5 times. But, Ashley, I think Boo had been hit 3 times on the weekend, and, North Texas is an extremely respectable program, and they're trying to throw Boo high and tight, and 3 of them get her. I think everyone throws Boo in the same location, and they missed a few times, but on the 3rd one, I think Ashley had every right to fight for her and show Boo that, like, everyone's behind you in the box right now. And so, moving forward, like I said earlier, I hope the team feels motivated by the fact that Ashley will go out on a limb for them like that.
Is there any truth to the rumor that head football coach Biff Poggi is going to bring Ashley in to talk to the defensive ends about that spin move that she put on during the ejection? Because that was fantastic. She was going to be the quarterback was definitely going down on that play after shedding her blocker. I don't know. It's just a rumor. It might not be true. I just heard something about it.
I'll have to ask him about it. We told Ashley that most people go for the outside spin move. She went for the inside spin move and tricked everyone, so she got to go back. So yeah, it was elite. We're on the field and we saw the spin move happen, and it definitely gave everyone some confidence with the spin move after that. But it was, after we joke about it, but I guess Ashley went back to the bus and, she had some water to cool down and came back out. But, everyone in the stadium, everyone on the other side, and everyone on our side thought that she had every right to voice her opinion on what had happened.
It was elite. I liked it. I like that term. It was elite.
It was.
Before we get out of here, let's turn our focus to the week ahead. You guys have an extremely busy week. Okay, maybe that's not true. You have one game. It's kind of a quirk in the schedule this week. No league play this weekend. So you guys, I'm sure this is going to be valuable for you guys to get off the road and rest up and practice up and work on some things and kind of come back ready to go at it. But you do have one game at the Sioux, I'll say this time, on a Wednesday night. You've got Longwood out of the Big South coming in at 5 p.m. That game's on ESPN Plus. If you can't make it to the Sioux, you can watch it there. Longwood's 21-15, 8-3 in their league with a 72 RPI. So once again, you guys only have one game, but the old SOS strength of schedule is not taking a hit this week because Longwood at 72 is going to present a challenge all their own.
Yeah, for sure. Longwood early in the year beat Florida State at Florida State, so that's never overlooked, and I think their record isn't overlooked either. So our kids know how big this win would be for us just, moving forward after the weekend. We recapped the weekend, all the things that we can do better moving forward, and now it's to put those in action. And I think we're really glad that we have Longwood this week, since we don't have anything this upcoming weekend, so that we can get back on track and just, against a team that's respectable in what they've done all year. So I think everyone's excited for the matchup this week.
Yeah, that's big. Go ahead, Kevin. I can see the look in your eyes, Kevin.
Well, no, I wanted to give Coach a chance to talk about next week's game. I know you don't want to look ahead, but you're going to your alma mater next week. Any thoughts a week out from that game?
Yeah, we went to Chapel Hill 2 years ago. They came to us last year, and so it's definitely an interesting feeling being back in the visitors' dugout. Year one was a weird feeling, and then playing them at the Sioux it felt normal last year, so not as weird. But I know it's just different going back and being in the opposite dugout of where you were for 4 years. But I'm excited for it. I think playing against Coach P and all of those guys is always fun. And it's a rivalry game at this point since we've been in Charlotte of just, everyone looks forward to that game, whether it's in Chapel Hill or Charlotte, two North Carolina teams that, have done some great things over the years. And I think the kids always get excited for it, and they play. I always tell them that we need to play a little harder in this one because this one means something just a little bit more, maybe even more than when we play the team 8 miles from Chapel Hill. But I'm excited for it. It's always special to go back to Chapel Hill, and I think baseball has them tomorrow. So just the awesome opportunities for both of us going into the next week to play an in-state team that can really help us out in the long run with RPI and all of that stuff.
I think you should beat them.
I agree.
Both counts.
Yep.
Tomorrow, next week, everything. Let's just beat them.
I'm on board.
All right, Coach. We got to let you go, but you've done fantastic.
Thank you.
Is it as bad as? Oh yeah, we could definitely keep this going, couldn't we, Kevin?
Yeah, we could. I've got a lot of questions, but maybe we'll have to do part 2 next time, Coach.
We'll just have to have you back. Is this as bad as you thought it was going to be?
No, not even close.
Man, she must have thought we were really bad.
I'm just kidding. This was great.
Yeah.
Our reputations precede us. Okay, folks, we are all out of time for this week. If you've enjoyed this, and we hope you have, think about subscribing there on YouTube and turning the notifications on so you can be notified of new content. You can also find this on Spotify. People like to use that when they're driving down the road in their cars and stuff like that. So find the Diamond Niner Gals on Spotify as well as YouTube. You can find Diamond Niner Report all over social media. We do Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and never TikTok. But check it out. Hit us up on social media. We love hearing from you guys. Or if you're really old-fashioned like we are, just say hello when we're out there at the ballpark. Love talking to all of you. So for Kevin, for producer Brad, and for Coach Taylor White, this is Nick saying we'll see you at the Sioux.